Alexis, thank you everyone. Good morning everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started just like usual. So we're going to be seated. We're really thinking about lengthening through the spine there. Okay, and we're going to chin tuck for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, maintaining that length. We're going to do our head turns, 5 each direction. Here we go. Turn, center, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, 30-10 warm up here. We are still starting with our cat-cow. Okay, so a seated cat-cow at the edge of your chair, where you can stand up and place your palms on the flat part of your chair there. And we're going to start with 30 seconds. I'll do the first round seated here. All right, in 3, 2, and 1. Here we go. So we're rounding the spine, tucking the chin, and then untucking and lifting up. Okay, so we're getting our neck through the curving and the untucking. All right, the chin coming down towards our chest and then looking up towards the ceiling. We're getting our middle back, that thoracic spine, by curling and curving our spine, and then flexing and extending it. And we're getting our lower back by doing the same thing. Okay, time. From here, we're going to interlace our fingertips. Okay, so you can either do this seated or standing. We're going to reach palms up to the ceiling. And then we're going to go ahead and twist them around and reach the knuckles down to the floor. And keep it going. I have, keep going there. I just have to switch something up on my time. There we go. Okay. And go at your own pace and your own tempo, right? And you're reaching just to your edge. You're not trying to force the stretch more than you should right now. We're just waking up the body. We're gently telling it to wake up. Okay, we're not aggressively telling it to wake up, right? Okay, 3, 2, and 1. And now we're going to do seated or standing bird dog. Okay, so we've done these in the past. If you're seated here, we're going to take an opposite leg and elbow towards one another. And if you're standing, I'd like you to hold the back of your chair here. And here we go. And begin. And your opposite foot is back, right? Opposite arm. Exhale. Really think of control. Think of that exhale of pushing that air out is bringing your elbow and knee close together. Okay? I'm tapping my back foot down, my back toe on the floor in between reps. You'll probably feel that standing leg working too if you're doing the standing variation here. It's really about controlling the movement with your breath and time. We're going to do that same thing on the other side. Okay, so now you're going to take your opposite foot back, toe is back, opposite arm, exhale. Trying to blow the air out of the stomach as that knee and elbow come in. This is really about being mindful and controlled. You can create your resistance here, create that, oh, that pull down with the elbow, that pull up with the knee. Taking your time, 2 and 1. Okay, and then our final one here, seated or standing, we're going to do hip circles. We're going to go nice and wide with our feet. If you're standing, you're going to feel more of your glutes push back, and then your hip flexors extend, right? We're going to switch halfway, and if you're seated, it's more of just the upper body is moving around in a circle, okay? All right, switch directions. So just really trying to open up the hips and the hip flexors. Gentle movement here. We're going to go back to the top in 3, 2, and 1. So we're going back to our cat-cow, your seated or standing variation here. I'm going to go move to standing with this one. Okay, so I have a nice slight bend in the knees as I round and tuck the chin. So you can feel those shoulders protracting and retracting. So we're warming up at the scapula, the neck, the back, the hips. Such a healthy movement pattern right here. Remember, our spinal cord houses our central nervous system, so we want to try to pay attention and take care of it. Okay, next one, we're going back to interlacing our hands, our fingers here, seated or standing. We're going to go ahead and flip the palms up towards the ceiling, and then rotate them and bring the knuckles down to the floor, moving at your own rhythm. And again, you're not trying to stretch your very hardest, you know, it's more of just taking it to the edge and feeling your body start to warm up and loosen up for the work to come, okay? You're not trying to force anything. That's the important part. 2 and 1. All right, we're going back to that standing or seated bird dog. Okay, for the seated one, remember we're right here, okay? So I'm kind of on a diagonal here, all right? Otherwise, standing, opposite hand and foot. I'm creating that resistance. When I'm here, I'm acting like I'm pulling something down hard with my arm and pressing something up heavy with my knee, okay? I'm imagining that I'm creating that force, okay, versus just kind of like, you know, you miss the core if you're going too fast. You'll work on your cardio, but we're trying to engage the core, those deep abdominal muscles. Okay, let's get ready for the other side. All right, so again, it's very mindful movement here. Nice and slow. Ready? Here we go. Exhale. Air out of the belly as they come in towards one another, the knee and the elbow. Go ahead and be noisy with that exhale. Nobody can hear you. Two and 1. Good. And now we're back to those hip circles. So the seated variation, I did them standing the first time. I'm kind of on the edge of the chair just so I have some room to move. My hips, my knees are wide here. And here's our seated variation. So we're just rolling. We're going to switch halfway in. Get ready in 2, 1. Switch that direction. And then after this, we're going to warm up with one more round. Enjoy, especially when we're opening up. Squeeze your glutes if you're standing when you're bringing your hips forward. Okay, and time to help prevent any low back discomfort. One more time through here, starting with our seated or standing cat-cow. Okay, here we go. Last time through. Again, gentle movement. We're not forcing into it. You know, further than the body's ready to go, okay? Just think of mobilizing, right? Think of how you want to feel that movement through your thoracic spine. Dust off the cobwebs from a night of sleep here. 2 and 1. Okay, going back to our interlacing our fingertips, okay, so palms to ceiling and then knuckles to floor, or just in that general direction. Okay, here we go. Reach. And you don't have to get those knuckles down to the floor. That's not the point. It's just going in that direction, right? Warming up the shoulders, the wrists, and the posterior chain, which is the back side of the body. 5 more seconds here. Then we're going to go back to our bird dog. 2 and time. Okay, so seated or standing. If I'm standing, I'm using the support of the chair just so I can really find that core control. Okay, back toe is on the ground, opposite hand is up. Exhale. Pull together. Create that resistance. Feel your core working. Again, don't be afraid to be noisy with that exhale. Nobody's listening. We can't hear you. Everybody's muted except for me, okay? Remember, your breathing actually controls your deepest abdominal core muscles, your diaphragm. And time, all done that side. Coming on to the other side, okay? Opposite hand and foot. Here we go, 2 and 1. You can almost kind of think of like it's some giant piece of memory foam that your elbow and knee has to drive into, right, to close up. You're creating that resistance and time. Good. Okay, hip circles for the final time here. All right, so again, when we're out in this position here, make sure you're squeezing your glutes, okay? Here we go. So out, I'm squeezing my glutes, and then I'm releasing. That helps take pressure off your lower back. All right, otherwise you get like, if your glutes aren't engaged, you'll get more of a curve in the lumbar spine that might irritate you. And switch directions. Should feel so good on the hips. Right, ball and socket joint here, warming them up in this 360 rotation. And time, guys, okay. So going into our first block, same as the past 2 weeks, working on that upper body strength here. We've got 5 moves. It is a 30-10 again. Okay, we're gonna start with our hinge. Our hinge, my feet are under my hips and my toes are forward, right? And then we're gonna hinge down. Look at that, like it's like you could set a bowl of soup on my back here, okay? If my shoulders are rounded, that soup would fall, right? So again, we're always pulled back, hips are back, and then we're gonna squeeze the glutes to stand up and then go into our upright row, okay? So shoulders in the back side of the body. All right, so that's our first one. And then we're going into our alt front raise to 2 calf raises. And then our bicep curls with an optional bicep hold for 10 seconds. That's just an option. And then into our external rotations, okay? And then we're gonna go into our row to kick back. Okay, so all of these can be done seated, and I'll do round 1 seated, okay? So you can follow me seated if that's what you have a preference for, okay? Or if that's what your body needs. So here we go in 3. We're going to our row, our hinged upright row in 3, 2, and 1, okay? So I'm gonna hinge, nice neutral spine, squeeze up, upright row. Three, 2, and 1. Okay, we are going to an alternating front raise to 2 calf raises, okay? Here we go, 3, 2, and 1. So lift, lift, calf raise, there, heel raise, whatever you want to call it there. We're working the front of the shoulder. We're working our calves, our ankle mobility, and all those small little receptors in the ankle, as well as balance and time. Okay, so next we have our bicep curls. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna keep those palms facing out, and we're gonna go ahead and squeeze the bicep. All right, so think about, again, creating that resistance, okay? You can make this exercise harder just by imagining, okay, by thinking about squeezing and engaging those biceps. We have 10 more seconds here, and then you have the option to hold it isometrically for 10 seconds, but you do not have to if it's too intense. And here we go, okay? Here's your option. If you're gonna hold it, you're gonna keep those elbows close to the rib cage, 90-degree bend at the elbows. You can rest here instead if you'd like. All right, here we go into our next exercise, which is those external rotations. Tiny movement, but there's a lot of return on this when you're consistent with small little exercises like this. Healthy shoulder joints, good posture, okay? Five more seconds here. And then we're gonna go to our row to kick back, okay? And time, okay? So now we're gonna combine working our back and our triceps. And we're gonna stay in that hinged over position unless it's, and if it's uncomfortable, stay in the seated position with me. That'll take some stress off the lower back, okay? So row, kick back. Trying to keep the neck in line with the spine, okay? 3, 2, and 1. Excellent. There's round 1. Back to the top with our hinge to upright row. Remember, you're standing or seated, those feet are under the hips, toes are facing forward. Here we go. We're gonna hinge, push the hips back, keep the shoulders retracted, squeeze the glutes to lift up, upright row. I think I said this last time, this just reminds me of like when I have a top load washer, and this just reminds me of the muscles that I use when I'm pulling that wet laundry out of the washing machine right here, okay? Just an idea of how it translates into everyday life, okay? Next exercise, alternating front raise to 2 calf raises, seated or standing. Here we go. Lift, lift, front raise, front raise. And think about how you have all these little receptors in your ankle that if you were to stand on one foot, you'd feel kind of like, ooh, like that like little wobbling and balance that it takes to find that steady. This helps strengthen those little receptors. Okay, next exercise is our bicep curls. We're gonna flip the weights or the water bottles, or even just go body weight here. Okay, I'm squeezing my glutes if I'm standing, I'm curling. I'm bringing down, the elbows are staying close to the rib cage. And again, I'm imagining, okay, pulling that weight up, okay? You can make this exercise harder. If you don't have weights, if you're just using imaginary ones, just imagine and you'll feel your muscles work harder, okay? It's that mind-muscle connection. It's a real thing. And time, if you want here, you can hold into an isometric hold. Don't mind me, my what do you call it? Screen locked out on me here. Here we go. Out, in. Elbows stay close to the rib cage. Show you from the side. Go through your own range of motion. Almost there. We have 5 more seconds. Then we're going to go to our row to kick back. Okay. 2 and 1. All right. Whew. Okay. Row to kick back. Again, we're staying hinged over. So if this is a lot of stress on your lower back, I suggest the seated variation. Okay. Here we go. We're going to row it, kick back. And I tend to come pretty low. I'm kind of like almost parallel with the floor. But it's not necessary. If this is more comfortable for you, you see that? That is quite all right, okay? You need to make sure you're not feeling any acute pain, okay? 2 and 1. Okay, final time through. All right, so we're going back to our hinge to upright row, seated or standing. Feet are underneath the hips, toes are facing forward. Here we go. All right, I'm sliding those dumbbells or those weights down my legs, and then I'm squeezing the glutes, lift them up, and then I'm lifting up for an upright row, getting the shoulders. Five more seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Final round of calf raises with our alternating front raise. 2 and 2. Okay. Here we go in 3, 2, and 1. Lift, lift. Does anyone else have a squeaky floor like me that they're working on? This is like the only spot in this room that I can work on, and it's the squeaky spot too. And time, okay? Next we have our bicep curl. So we're gonna flip those palms over, okay? Here we go, squeezing the glutes, keeping the elbows close to the body, and imagining you're pulling up something heavier than you are, okay? Get a little bit more out of it. We use a lot of bicep throughout our day. Think about how much we use our arms, you know, in our everyday living. Biceps play a big part in our daily activities. 3, 2, and 1. This is an option right here. You do not have to hold. You can rest right here if you like to, okay? Next, we're going to go into those external rotations that start in this position. Begin. Out. In. All right, so those elbows are staying close to the body. You're getting this like 180 spin, okay? Working our shoulders in all sorts of directions. I really love this upper body circuit. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, woo. Row to kick back is next, okay? So again, if it's hard for you to stay into this position right here, go for the seated position, okay? Here we go. We're gonna row it, kick back. Ten more seconds here, and then we break before we go into our next superset. 3, 2, and time. All right, excellent job, guys. That was 3 rounds through of our upper body circuit. So next, we are going to do a superset, and the only adjustment I made to this one is how I'm going to ramp up intensity a little bit. Is we've been doing our hinge to 3 rows. We're going to do 1 row because there's going to be more hinging through the body because of that. Okay, so it's going to be hinge, row, up, curl, press. Okay, so it's just 1 rep each. Okay, so it ups the intensity because you're kind of coming up and down a little bit quicker. So if you need to make some modifications to that, again, remember how our overhead press is not a good exercise for everybody, okay? So your modification is going to be hinge, row, row, up, curl. Hinge, row, row, up, curl. Okay, so if this movement doesn't work for you, you're going to do 2 rows in place of that overhead press, okay? And then we're still working on our lunging, okay? So all one side. And remember, we have options here. Our seated option, our seated leg press, or you can do movement where you're coming back, all on the same leg though, or you can stay stationary, okay? Imagine I'm holding the back of my chair here, okay? And you can just keep those feet glued to the ground and stay stationary. So you have 3 different variations that you can work with. Now for round one, like usual, I'm going to do seated. So that's the hinge, row, curl, and press I'm going to do from a seated position. You can go right to standing if that's better for you. Okay, so let's get ready for our hinge. Remember, we changed that to 1 row instead of 3, and then our curl and press. And if that overhead press is no good, just give me 2 rows and then a bicep curl. Okay, here we go in 3, 2, and 1. My feet are under my hips and the toes are facing forward. Hinge, row, up, curl, press. Okay. Your other option is 2 rows, just like this, up and curl. Okay, that's if your shoulder doesn't like the overhead press. Remember, quality over quantity. So you really want to make sure that you're talking to each muscle group you're working here and going nice and controlled through the movement. We're not rushing through it. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, now we have lunging on one side or your seated leg press. So I'm in the seated leg press variation for this first round. Okay, or you can stay in a stationary lunge, or you can move that back leg forward and front. Okay, here we go. Same leg though. Single leg exercises are excellent for helping to balance out any muscle imbalances, because the stronger side cannot help the weaker side. As well as lunging is a great core exercise. Not every core exercise looks like a traditional ab exercise, right? Sometimes they're sneaky. Whew, feeling this on set 1, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, shake it out. We have to do the other side yet. Remember, you can always start late, stop early, depending on how you're feeling. Let's get ready in 3, 2, and 1. If you're doing the seated leg press with me, just like the other movements I've been talking about, I'm creating that resistance with the heel of my foot here. I'm pushing something really heavy away. Whew, halfway, and then we're going to go to the top of round 2. Ten more seconds. 5, 2, and 1. Ooh, those ones, whether the seated leg press or the lunges, I feel like they're always our hardest ones that we do here. That's not an exercise for the faint of heart. All right, going back to our hinge, row, curl, and press. Or you're going to give me 2 rows to a bicep curl. Okay, so here we go. Hinge, row, stand it up, curl, press. All right, so watch, we're hinging. We're using our back muscles to row. We're using our glutes and hamstrings to stand up, biceps to curl, shoulders to press, okay? The more muscle groups we get involved with an exercise means the harder you're working, okay? And the more calories that you are burning versus using, you know, 1 muscle group versus using 3 muscle groups, okay? 2, and 1. Okay, back to our lunges. How'd we get back there so quick? Okay. All right, seated leg press or your lunges. Remember, you can move with these lunges or you can stay stationary. Okay, either is fine. The main thing is you want to make sure that that front leg, that front foot, that heel is glued into the ground, okay? Because that's how you get here, okay? So you might need to make some foot adjustments if that's not the case. Remember, you can always stop a little early, start a little late, because especially if you feel your form breaking down. Remember, I've said in the past, I like using the 3 strikes, you're out rule, right? If the first time, if your form goes on the first one, well, that's normal. Sometimes that happens. We just lose our footing. Time. Let's get ready for the other side. Sometimes it's even normal that we do it 2 times in a row. But if you lose your footing or your form 3 times in a row, that's a pretty good indicator your body's tired and it's time to regress or modify, okay? Other side, here we go. Go through your range of motion, okay? Again, the important part is our heel and that front leg is on the ground. It's making contact to the ground. And we're focused on that front leg, okay? You might feel it in the back leg. I always say, especially if you're tight in your hip flexors, but you want to put your mind muscle connection in that front leg, okay? Ten more seconds here. 3, 2, and 1. Whew, okay. One more time through, okay? So going back to our hinge, row, curl, and press, or our hinge 2 rows curl, okay? Here we go, feet under the hips, all right? We're going to hinge, use the back muscles to row, use the glutes and hamstrings to stand up, biceps to curl, shoulders to press. Whew. Almost there. We've got 10 more seconds of this. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Final round of our seated leg press or our lunge. Feel free to get drinks in between if you need them, okay? They're not designated for just when we transition to the next circuit, okay? So you do you here. Let's get ready. Final round of lunging, okay? And remember, not only are we making sure our heel and that front leg is connected to the floor, but we're also making sure that, you know, I'm standing in front of my chair here. My left foot is in line with one leg of the chair, and my right foot behind me is in line with the other, okay? That way we're not, you know, one foot in front of the other, because that's really going to compromise our balance there, okay? 5 more seconds on this side. 2, woo, and 1. Okay, shake it out. Just one more side to go. And we're gonna rest, get into our last circuit here, okay? So here we go, other side, almost done. In 3, 2, and 1. Lower down, press through that front heel. The chair is there if you need it. Some of you may not need it at all. Some of you may just look at that. You just need a finger, okay? Just there to, you know, or just knowing that it's there in front of you in case you need it is enough too, you know? So you do what works right for you. We're almost done. We got 10 more seconds here. I'm starting to break my sweat. Last 3, 2, and time. Excellent job. We got done the lunges. Yay, they're always a doozy. Okay, so one more 45-15, guys. Okay, and still doing our 3 count knee repeater switch. Okay, so that's from that standing. See my start here, right? So 1, 2, 3, and then that leg I go back, back, forward, and now I'm set up for the other side, right? 1, 2, 3, that leg goes back, back, forward, and now I'm set up on the other side, okay? Now, when you're doing it seated, you don't have to worry about that little transition trick, okay? We can just go right to the other leg, all right? And then from there, we have our backstroke rotations, okay? So I'm following my hand with my eyes as I go up and over and then out and around, okay? Now, you can still, if you have a preference, if you like your band and you wanna do your alt bow and arrow row, please feel free to do that as an option too, okay? And then our final one, we're not done with speed skaters yet, okay? So tap, tap, okay? Okay, so if you're advanced, you put a little hop in there, okay? Or, and for seated, we're just kind of, we're taking that back leg, back leg, back leg, back leg. Okay? All right, so let's get done. We're gonna get a little warm on this last one here. The intensity is up a little bit. 45 seconds of work, starting with our, what do I do with my, there it is. With our 3 count knee repeater with that back, forward switch. Now I'll be seated for round 1, so you won't see me do that little part, okay? Here we go in 3, 2, and 1, okay? So you can see how this is different than our bird dog we did in our warm up, where this is more about conditioning and working the heart, where the bird dog was less about conditioning and more about working the core. Now they both intersect, they both do, you know, one just works more than the other, but they still, like this move still works your core, just in a different way, not as intensely, let's say. Works on your heart a little more intensely. 2 and time. Okay, next we have our alternating backstroke. Okay, or you can do your bow and arrow, whichever one feels better for you here. And 3, 2, and 1. So I'm going to go up and over and then out and around. All the brilliant ways our shoulders are able to move, right? If you're seated with me, you're on that marionette string, right? We don't let our posture go. And this can start to tire your shoulders out just from holding them up, all right? Ten more seconds here, and then we have speed skaters. Last 5, 3, 2, and 1. Oh man, I worked my shoulders hard yesterday, so I'm really feeling that. Okay, so speed skaters are next. Okay, seated or standing. I'm at the edge of my seat here. Okay, so that I have room to kind of sweep that foot behind me. Okay, here we go. And again. Remember, the time is just a guide. If you're starting to feel like it's too much intensity, go ahead and back off, because we're more concerned about the quality of our work, okay, over the quantity of our repetitions. You guys have grandchildren, it's a little, the dab, do you remember when dabbing was big? My kids would dab, that's what I feel like I'm doing. You see your grandkids do that at all? 3, 2, and 1. Okay, woo. Round 1, 2 more just like that. I'm gonna move to standing, but if you like the seating better, please stay there. Okay, we're back to our 3 count knee repeater switch, okay? In 3, 2, and 1, here we go. So 2, 3, back, forward. This move does make me miss a good old step aerobics class. 10 more seconds here. Whew. 2 and 1. Oh man, okay. Back to those backstroke rotations, or if you want to do your alternating bow and arrow instead, please feel free to do that too, okay? Here we go. Begin. Either way, your eyes are following that hand back, okay? And not only are we working on the shoulders really well here, we're getting that rotation through the spine, working on our obliques. Whew. Shake it out if you need to. I need to shake it out. My arms are so tired today. All right, so there's a good example. Sometimes you need just a little rest in between, but look, I got 10 more seconds. I'm going to go for it now, okay? 3, 2, and 1. Excellent. Okay, we're back to those speed skaters, seated or standing. All right, if you're advanced, you might put a little hop to it. Otherwise, we're just kind of keeping that back leg behind us, right? Here we go in 3, 2, and 1. It's a lot of glute med work here. Those stabilizers in the hip that help with our balance. Got 15 more seconds here, and then just one more time through. Last 5, 2, and 1. Boy, they are so much fun. I just love those. I like the sweep and shoot. I like all that lateral stuff. I don't know why, I just find it very fun. All right, back to the top for our final round. 3 count knee repeater, okay? Seated or standing. And at this point, if you're feeling very fatigued and you just want to do a march, like a high knee march, do that instead, okay? So just march in place. If this is starting to feel a little too intense on our 3rd round. It's accumulated fatigue. You know, the more times we do it, the harder it gets because we've already done it a bunch of times. Ten more seconds here. 2, and 1. Whew. Okay, final round of those backstroke rotations, or if you prefer to do your alternating bow and arrow, okay? Feeling it. Here we go. Seated or standing. 3, 2, and 1. Remember, our gaze is trying to follow that hand that's moving. We're going up and over and then out and around. Again, I always think of like putting on a seatbelt here, or maybe you have a grandkid with you and they're in a car seat or something behind you and you need to reach behind you and give them something or check on them, right? You would use these types of movements in your body. And time, all done with those. All right, last round of speed skaters, okay? And then we are done. Seated or standing in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So I really want to try to feel it through this right here, right? Halfway. We're going to stretch it out after this, guys. Whew. 15 more seconds. And look, yet another way our shoulders are moving, right? Now there's a lot of different ways they can move. 2 and 1. All right, guys, we did it. Let's get a drink. Okay, we're gonna do a little stretch out here. Okay, I do have my water there, but I wanted to sip of my coffee this morning. Okay, so if you're standing, let's go to a standing hamstring stretch. Okay, so you're just gonna go ahead and pop your, if you have something lower and you wanna pop it up on lower, if you're okay on your chair, go ahead and do that. And just gently fold forward and feel that stretch through the back of the leg here, okay? Seated, you're just gonna pop it forward, okay? All right, whichever one works better for you. I have my hamstrings are pretty flexible. So for me, I need to try to do something that gets into them a little bit deeper. I think I'm just genetically born with a flexible hamstring. Sometimes, some people just have tight hamstrings. Okay, come back up. My daughter's like that. My daughter just has very tight hamstrings. Other side. Good. All right, now we're going to get into the upper body here, okay? And if you're standing here, hands on the back of the chair, I truly love this stretch, okay? Because you're going to go ahead and try to open up those shoulders, right? And you're trying to get your ears in line with your arms here, but don't force it if you don't want to. You can sway your hips side to side a little bit if you want. If you want to add some gentle movement and see how that feels for you, or you can stay completely still. You do not have to move if it does not feel good. Okay, if you're seated, go ahead and stay in that stretch. But if you're seated, you're going to come into a forward fold here, okay? And you're just going to let everything kind of hang here. Now, very gently and very slowly, when you're coming out of folds, you should really take your time, okay? So come up very slowly. Let's roll the shoulders back a few times here. All right, and let's go ahead and stretch out our neck and trap here. And a nice big inhale and exhale. And again, these stretches here aren't about, I want you to think of them like more restorative. It's not about trying to force it into its deepest stretch, because that's actually activating the muscle. We're just trying to let go, right? Let go of everything. Just try to untense all your muscles, let gravity just pull it down, right? You're just letting go. There's a difference from when you're trying to actively, stretch really hard, right? And relax. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. When we're doing stretches that are more, we're trying to let go, which is what I'm trying to talk about, that's more restorative, okay? When you're doing the kind of stretches where you're really trying to, go to its, maximum potential, that's more muscle work. And we just did muscle work. We just did a different form of it with strength training. That's why we're focused on our restorative stretches. Good. All right, and then gently come out of that. Our final stretch, let's do this one seated. We're just going to, 2 options. You can either just twist with both your feet forward here like this and try to look past your back shoulder. If you want to add a little more to it, you can cross your leg, okay? And then the leg that's crossed on top, you're going to twist over that side, holding onto the outside of that thigh. And just breathe. Again, we're just going to the edge. I'm not forcing this more than my body wants to go. I'm not trying to make my neck look over that shoulder if it really is, if the range of motion is not there. I'm just going to where it wants to go and trying to relax into it, just let go. Nice big deep breaths. Like if you inhale for 5 seconds, then exhale for 5 seconds too, okay? So try to match your inhales and exhales. That helps with the relaxation process. And when you're ready, just gently come out of that twist, okay? We're going to do the same thing on the other side. You can either just stay with both your legs on the floor, feet on the floor here, or you can cross over and twist, okay? Finding your edge, inhaling for 3 to 5 seconds, Exhaling for 3 to 5 seconds. All right, and then let's go ahead and come back to center, and then we'll go ahead and we'll inhale it up, palms together, exhale, hands to heart. And one more time. Palms together, exhale, hands to heart. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's class.